Journey to the Cross, Day 12. Your emotional life is a window into what is truly important to you and what you are really living for. It bothered me more than I was willing to admit. It made me angry. It made me fearful. It discouraged me again and again. As much as I tried to ignore it, it would hook me again. I could argue that it didn't make any difference at all, but it was important to me and I could not escape my struggle. It would sneak up on me and grab me unexpectedly, and it would distract and divert me. It hurt, and the hurt would not go away. One man's approval had become my God. I was a young pastor who was learning his way. Of course, there were moments when my leadership was awkward. I'm sure at times I thought I knew more and was capable of more than I actually was. I'm sure at the time I was not a very good preacher. If this particular person was intent on criticizing me, I gave him plenty of material to work with. But change began to take place when I began to understand that he was not my problem. I was. It was a bit mortifying to confess that I had put this man in a position in my life that only God should be in. I had allowed him to do for me what only God could do. This man had the power to wreck not just a day for me, but an entire week, as I hashed over and over in my mind another situation of his dismissal. My heart had wandered away from trusting in God, the rest of a heart that is found in hooking your identity and security to Him. What alerted me to the fact that the problem was me? The answer is not mysterious or complicated. It was my emotions. I had every reason to be joyful. I had been chosen and gifted to be a minister of the gospel of Jesus Christ. I had a wonderful wife and the beginnings of a beautiful family. Our little church was becoming a close-knit gospel community that felt more like a family than an institution. The Lord was meeting our physical needs. In many ways, these were some of the best years of our lives. But I was discouraged, fearful, anxious, doubtful, and ill at ease. I had lost the confidence I once had in the gifts God had given me and His calling to this particular place of ministry. In my discouragement, I spent way too much time contemplating what it would be like not to be pastor anymore. The thought of continuing made my stomach churn, while the thought of leaving gave me hope. I was a mess. Our emotions are a window into what our hearts really love. The rise and fall of your feelings function as a barometer to what you truly value and want out of life. Your joy, sadness, fear, anger, happiness, despondency, contentment, discouragement, rejoicing, and inner grumbling can point you to what is ruling your heart at street level. When the Bible commands you to rejoice, it is calling you to surrender the control of your heart to the one who always gives you reason to rejoice, no matter what is going on in your life. Circumstantial, relational, and experiential joy is always temporary, because the good moments those things give us are temporary. Lack of peace may indicate where you have looked for peace will never deliver the peace you crave. Fleeting happiness may indicate that you've hooked your happiness to something that wasn't created to give you lasting happiness. Fear may indicate you have trusted something that is fallen and broken and will never faithfully deliver what you are looking for. Discouragement may point you to the fact that you keep hoping in something in your world, and that thing keeps failing you because it was not meant to supply you with unbroken hope. Here's the bottom line. Your emotions can be a helpful indicator of where you have replaced God with something else, or where you have asked Him to deliver something He's never promised. Often, we make the mistake of thinking we have a heart for the Lord when we're really just thankful for Him because at the moment, He seems to be delivering to us what we have truly set our hearts on. Often, we reduce God to just the deliverer of good gifts, rather than recognizing Him as the ultimate heart-satisfying gift. In this fallen world, we all face a catalog of potential God replacements. The list is endless because anything in creation can capture our hearts and live there as only God should. As a young pastor, the respect of one man was that God replacement for me. I was a pastor, I was studying the Bible or teaching, preaching, or counseling the Bible all the time. I spent much of my life thinking about God and His Word. I talked all the time about the liberating joy of following him and the dangers of sin. I thought I was, on the inside, a God-fearer and willing servant, but there was evidence that something was amiss. I had none of the peace and rest of heart that communion with the Lord should produce. I had just the opposite. Because although I thought of myself as serving God, I was in active service of a false God, and my emotional life was the evidence that began to help me see what was going on beneath the surface of my seemingly Godward life. In this season of reflection, confession, and willing sacrifice, how about scanning the evidence of your own life? How about taking stock of what your emotions tell you about what you're truly serving? How about being willing to confess to having a fickle and wandering heart? How about not assuming that the habits of religion mean that your heart is ruled by the Lord at street level? How about offering to God the one sacrifice he will never reject, the sacrifice of a humble, honest, heartfelt confession? Remember David's words of assurance to all who would come to God and confess a wandering heart. The sacrifices of God are a broken spirit, a broken and contrite heart, O God, you will never despise. You are never in a safer, more blessed place than when your heart is broken in this way.